In the whole of that glass tower, the most dangerous thing Tina thought she'd ever meet was the freight elevator that dropped an inch before it caught. Every night at 2 in the morning it did that little stomach drop, and every night her tired heart forgot it was fake and lurched anyway. She was wrong about the most dangerous thing. It lived on the 31st floor, and it had a name nobody on her crew would say out loud. She didn't know his name either, not at first. She knew what a woman knows about a room she cleans at 2 in the morning. That he never touched the food on the tray she cleared. That 3 Korean men in black suits stood outside a door that never opened, not to eat, not to sit, not for anything. That the whole floor went quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful. The way a forest goes quiet when something large is moving through it. And she knew that the night she told him to move his feet so she could mop the floor beneath them, every one of those men reached inside their jackets at once. He moved his feet. And somewhere across the city, another Korean man, one who had waited years for that untouchable one to show a single crack, heard that a cleaning woman had made him blink, and he began, very quietly, to come for her. If you're here with us, tap that like button and drop your city in the comments so we can see how far this story travels tonight. Stay all the way to the end, because you are going to want to see what he did with the last thing she ever said to him. Everybody wants the first night to be brave. It wasn't. Tina's feet hurt. That was the entire reason, and she'd tell you so herself without a scrap of shame. Courage is a luxury for people who've slept, and she had not slept properly in about 4 years. Not the kind of sleep that fixes anything. She cleaned towers for a living, glass boxes in the middle of Seoul, the kind with lobbies that echo and elevators that demand a badge for every single floor. 2 women and 1 tired white van, Tina, and an older Korean woman she called Auntie, because that was the name she'd been handed the first week and she'd never learned how to argue it. Between them, they took the night contracts nobody else wanted. 11 at night to 5 in the morning, 5 nights a week. You do work like that so a boy can sleep in a warm bed while his mother is on her knees on cold marble, and so that boy can go to a school across the city that costs a little more than the work pays. You make up the difference out of your own body. That was the shape of Tina's whole life. Her son Kito's school. Kito's uniform. Kito's future, which she was building one wiped surface at a time. Every road she walked, however far it wandered, bent back toward one small face asleep under a superhero blanket he was already outgrowing and refused to give up. Her days ran backward from everyone else's. She'd wake in the early afternoon in a small flat with thin walls, and for a few hours she'd be nobody's cleaner and only Kito's mother, walking him home from the gate, listening to the whole architecture of an 8-year-old's day, who said what at lunch, which teacher was unfair, the exact rules of a game he'd invented that changed every week. She'd cook the big Sunday pot down into weekday portions, check the homework, press the school uniform flat with an iron that spat, and then, when the boy was asleep and the flat was quiet, she'd change into gray and drive the tired van into a city that only wanted her after midnight. 2 lives, stitched together at the seam of a sleeping child. She had gotten very good at the stitching. The 31st floor was new on their route that month. Auntie went the color of paper when the assignment printed. She caught Tina's forearm in the supply room, hard, harder than a small old woman should be able to grip, and said, "You do not talk on that floor. You do not look at the center of the room. You clean the edges, you leave the middle alone. The middle is his." "Whose?" Tina said, checking the caddy, counting cloths. Auntie wouldn't say the name. Her mouth actually closed on it, the way you close a door on a draft. She just said, again, quieter, "Do the edges." So for the first 2 nights, Tina cleaned around a silence, because that is what it was, a man-shaped silence at the far end of an enormous dark office. A Korean man in a leather chair facing a wall of glass and a city full of lights he seemed to own pieces of, sitting so still he might have been part of the furniture, except furniture doesn't make a room hold its breath. A tray of food beside him, going cold, going wrong, 3 men in the hall who watched her the whole time she worked, the way you watch a dog you have not yet decided about. The first night she cleaned that floor, she kept her eyes down and her movements small, the way Auntie had drilled into her, and she felt his stillness at her back the entire time like a change in air pressure. She wiped glass she could see her own tired reflection in. She emptied a bin that held nothing but a single crushed paper cup. She worked the edges, left the middle, and rode down in the freight elevator with her heart going faster than the work warranted. The second night was the same, except that she caught herself, once, wondering what a man does alone in a room that size at 2 a.m, who does not eat, does not sleep, does not seem to want anything the room could give him. She pushed the thought away. It wasn't hers to have. She had a boy to get back to before dawn. On the third night, he was sitting exactly where she needed to mop. Not near it. On it. His polished shoes flat on the one clean stretch of marble she'd been saving for last. Because you always save the long straight run for the end, when your back has already gone and you need something easy to finish on. Tina stood there a moment, mop in hand. She looked at the shoes. She looked at the man, staring out at a city that owed him money. She looked at that tray of good food nobody had touched, a whole meal dying on a desk. And something in her, something too tired that night to remember to be afraid, just opened its mouth and spoke before the careful part of her could stop it. "Feet," she said. The room stopped breathing. She heard the 3 men in the doorway move as one. That terrible synchronized rustle of hands going inside jackets. The sound of a decision being reached about her life. Auntie, somewhere behind her by the service door, made a small strangled sound like a kettle just before the whistle. And the man in the chair simply looked at her. Not the way powerful men look at a woman who has forgotten her place. Tina knew that look. She'd been getting it her whole life, in 2 countries and 3 languages. This was different. This was the way a man looks at the first weather he has felt in years. Like she had walked into a sealed room and cracked open a window he had forgotten was there, and the cold air off it was the first thing to reach him in longer than he could name. Then he lifted his shoes. A few inches. Just enough. And Tina slid the mop underneath and cleaned her long, straight run, corner to corner, and she did not let her hand shake, because a shaking hand is a thing men like these can use, a thing they file away, and she had learned a long time ago, in rooms much worse than this one, to keep hers perfectly still. She finished. She wrung the mop, she squared the caddy, she wheeled it out past 3 men who parted for her without being told to, which she would think about later. Auntie did not speak one word the whole way down in the freight elevator that dropped its inch and caught. Tina went home and slept badly, and thought that was surely the strangest thing that would ever happen to her inside that building. It was only the first. The next night, the assignment slip had her name on it alone for the 31st floor, not the crew. Not Auntie, just Tina. She read that slip 3 times under the flat fluorescent light of the supply room. Because in her world, being singled out by the center of a silence is not a promotion. It is a summons, and a summons from a man like that usually has only one kind of ending. And Tina had never once in her whole life answered a threat by making herself smaller. It was a flaw, she knew it was a flaw. It had kept her poor, and it had kept her employed in the worst hours, and it had also, more than once, kept her alive, and she had never been able to work out which of those to thank for it. So she went up, and he was there again. The Korean man in the chair, in front of the glass, a fresh tray beside him going cold in precisely the same way as the last one, and the one before that. An untouched meal is a specific kind of insult when you are raising a child on rice and stretched stew. And it made her angry. Not brave, angry. There is a very particular rage a woman who feeds a growing boy feels, standing over good hot food that nobody will eat. It is older and deeper than fear. And that night it walked out ahead of her caution. "You don't eat," she said, not a question. She was wiping down the long meeting table and she didn't even look up at him. "Every night I clear a full plate off this desk. Nobody's touched it. You keep that up, you'll make yourself sick. And then some other tired woman is going to have to clean up after that too." He didn't answer. That was fine. She wasn't asking a question, and she wasn't waiting for permission. But Tina always brought her own food to the long shifts. Rice and stew in a battered steel thermos, and a little foil box, the kind of meal you cook in one big pot on a Sunday, so that a boy comes home to something hot every day of the week, without you having to think about it. And that night, out of nothing more complicated than contempt for the waste sitting in front of her, she set her small foil box down on the corner of that enormous desk, right beside plating that had probably cost more than she cleared in a full shift, and she said, "Eat that instead. It won't kill you. I made it with my own hands and my son is still standing." and she walked off to clean the far offices and left him alone with it. When she came back an hour later, the box was empty, not pushed aside, not politely half-finished. Clean, he'd eaten every grain of rice in it. And the 3 Korean men out in the hallway were looking at her, like she had just performed open-heart surgery on the floor. She would understand later what she had actually done. That this man had not taken food from a hand he didn't own. Not one bite, not one cup of tea, in longer than any of the men around him could remember. That in his world, accepting a thing you did not personally control was, very simply, how men ended up dead in quiet rooms. That Tina had walked in off a night shift and handed the most careful, most guarded man in the entire city a foil box of homemade stew from a stranger's kitchen, and that he had eaten it, in front of his own armed guards, slowly, deliberately, like a man daring the world to do something about it. She didn't know any of that yet. She only knew the box was clean when she came back for it, and it annoyed her, honestly, how much that small, clean box pleased her. What she did not know, what none of them in that tower knew, was that a clean plate on the 31st floor had already become, that very same night, a piece of information. And that piece of information was traveling across the city, out of the tower, through a leak none of them had found yet, and into exactly the wrong hands. Here is what Tina couldn't see. What was moving in the dark while she mopped and wrung and drove her tired van home before dawn. There was another Korean man, older, a charcoal coat, gray hair cut close and severe, the kind of cold that never once has to raise its voice to empty a room. He had spent years, real, patient, calendar years, waiting for the man on the 31st floor to show a single weakness. One crack, one human thing. Because a man with no cracks cannot be moved, and a man who cannot be moved cannot be taken. And this older man's entire long game was built on the day the untouchable one finally became touchable. And then his people brought him a small and very strange report. The untouchable one had lifted his feet for a cleaning woman, had eaten food out of a foil box she'd carried in, had, for the first time in living memory, plainly wanted something he did not own and could not control. And just like that, Tina stopped being invisible. The one thing she had wanted for herself for her entire life in this city, simply to be seen, to be a person in a room and not a gray uniform in the corner of it, she finally got. From exactly the wrong man, in exactly the worst possible way. They pulled her file, her routes, her hours, the towers she cleaned and the nights she cleaned them, her son's school, his pickup time, the gate she stood at every single afternoon before her night shift began, the one warm, ordinary hour of her whole day, a small boy running at her across a courtyard. There is a very specific cold that moves through a mother's body when she understands that a stranger, somewhere she cannot see, has sat down and carefully drawn a map of her child. Tina did not know any of this yet. But the man on the 31st floor did. His people were good, and they caught the leak's shadow before she ever felt it. And he did something that broke every single rule he had lived his life by. He came down, not up to his own floor, down, into hers. She turned a corner in the service corridor one night, the genuinely ugly part of the building, mop sinks and cinder block and exposed pipe, the part of any tower that men like him are never, ever meant to see, and Kang Ji-hwan was standing in it, in his long black coat, enormous and entirely wrong in that cramped tiled space, like a wolf that had somehow gotten into a supply closet and did not fit. "You need to let me put people around you," he said, low, fast, not 1 ounce of performance in it, which frightened her more than a threat would have. "Around your son." And there it was, the offer. Safety, the single thing Tina wanted most in all the world for Keto, held out to her in the one hand on earth she could not take it from. "No," Tina said. Men like Kang Ji-hwan do not hear that word. You could actually watch it land somewhere inside him it had never once been permitted to go. His jaw moved. Something crossed his face that was half fury and half, there isn't a clean word for the other half. Wonder, maybe. Or grief. The look of a man discovering a door in a house he thought he'd mapped completely. Because Tina understood exactly what he was offering, and exactly what it would cost her. Safe in his world means owned. His men standing around her son means her son grows up inside his world, breathing that air, learning those rules. It means the map somebody had drawn of Quito stops being a threat and becomes a permanent fact of his life. It means she trades one danger for a far better dressed one that smiles and never, ever lets go. And Tina had spent every year of her life making certain that her boy belonged to no one on this earth but her. She had left one country and rebuilt in another, precisely so that no man could ever again decide the shape of her days or her sons. She was not about to hand that back now, not even to the one hand strong enough to actually keep them safe, especially not to that hand. "I have a son to stay free for," she told him, and her voice did not shake either. "You, of all the men in this city, should understand a thing a person would burn the whole world down to protect." And she picked up the handle of her caddy, and she walked away from him down that ugly corridor, and she did not look back, not once, though every nerve in her spine wanted to, and she heard him not follow. A man who had not been refused in years, standing rooted to the floor of a supply corridor, learning for the first time the exact shape and weight of the word no. What she did not hear, because it was happening at that same moment, across the city, in the back of a black car parked in the dark, was a gloved hand laying a photograph of her son, face up on the leather seat, smoothing it flat with 2 fingers, and a quiet voice saying a single word to the driver. They didn't come at Tina. That was their mistake. They came at Quito's gate. Auntie called her at 4 in the afternoon, her voice shaking so badly Tina could barely make out the words. A black car, parked across from the school. 2 days running now, the same one, and a charcoal-coated Korean man in the back of it, watching children spill out through the gate at the end of the day, watching one child in particular. Now, a lot of women, hearing that, would have run, grabbed the boy and a bag and vanished. And a lot of women would have gone straight back to the 31st floor and taken Kang Ji-hwan's men and his safety and his beautiful leash and wept with gratitude for it. Tina did neither of those things. She did the thing she was better at than anyone else in that entire tower. She sat down at her own kitchen table, and she thought like a woman nobody ever looks at. Because that had been her whole life, hadn't it? Being invisible. Being the gray coverall in the corner of a room full of important men who never once registered her face, who talked through her, over her, around her, as though she were part of the building's ventilation. She had spent years being furniture, and invisibility, she understood now, turning her cold coffee in her hands, is not only a cage. Used correctly, by someone patient, it is a weapon that no one ever thinks to check you for. So Tina built a trap, not Ji-hwan, with all his men and money. Tina, at her kitchen table, on the back of one of Quito's old worksheets, in her own careful handwriting. She knew that tower better than any guard who worked in it. She knew every service corridor and which cameras in them had been dead for months, because no one budgets to fix a camera pointed at a mop sink. She knew every door that badged and every door that didn't. She knew the freight routes, the blind stairwells, the hour the night guards rotated and got sloppy. And she knew exactly what the charcoal-coated man wanted more than anything else in the world, to catch the untouchable boss in a human moment. A weakness he could film, a crack he could carry upward to the people above him and trade for everything. So Tina decided to give him one, a perfect one. A bait he had waited years for and could not possibly refuse. She let word leak, deliberately, through the exact channel she had quietly worked out was compromised, the outside roster contractor the rival had already gotten his hooks into, that the boss of the 31st floor would be alone. Unguarded, on a low service level, at one specific hour, meeting a woman, the precise human weakness the old man in the charcoal coat had spent years of his life waiting to witness with his own eyes. And then Tina went to Kang Ji-hwan, and she told him the truth. All of it, not to be rescued, to hand him a plan. "He is coming to a room that I chose," she said, standing in his enormous office with her chin up, laying it out like a shift schedule, "at an hour that I chose, through the one door in this building that only a cleaning badge opens. Your men will already be inside the walls before he ever arrives, because I will walk them in myself, one at a time, over 3 nights, in gray coveralls, pushing caddies, and not one guard in this building will look at their faces. He'll walk in certain he has finally found your weakness. And he will be standing in the middle of mine." Kang Ji-hwan looked at her for a long moment. the exact same way his 3 guards had looked at her over that empty foil box. Like she had performed surgery in a room where everyone else had only ever learned to bleed. And then she did the part only she could do. For 3 nights, Tina walked his men into the building, not as soldiers, as cleaners. She had spare coveralls in the van, gray and shapeless, and she handed them out one at a time. She taught each man how to hold a caddy, so it looked like 100 nights of holding one. She taught them the slow, bored, invisible walk of a person nobody photographs. Chin level, eyes on the floor, no hurry, because hurry is what a guard's eye catches. She timed them to the guard rotation she had memorized months ago, without ever meaning to. She sent them in through the loading dock where the one working camera had pointed at the same blank wall since spring. Night 1, 2 men. Night 2, 2 more. Night 3, the last of them. Not a single guard in that tower looked twice at a cleaner, pushing a bucket toward a service level at 2 in the morning, because that is the entire point of a cleaner. You are the thing the room is built to not see. By the time the charcoal-coated man made his move, Kang Ji-hwan's people were already folded into the walls of Tina's chosen room, walked past every checkpoint by the most invisible woman in the building, wearing her uniform, moving the way she taught them to move. And it went exactly the way Tina drew it on the back of that worksheet, to the minute. The charcoal-coated man came for the crack he had hunted for years. He walked through the one service door that only a cleaner's badge would open, into a low-tiled room with no working cameras and no exit she had not personally chosen, and he found Kang Ji-hwan's men already there, folded silent into the walls of the place, because a woman that nobody ever looks at had walked every one of them in past every guard over 3 quiet nights, in gray coveralls, pushing squeaking caddies, invisible as air. He had spent years hunting for a weakness in the untouchable man. It had never once occurred to him to look for strength in the woman holding the mop in the corner. They took him without firing a single shot. Quiet, clean, the way that world prefers to do its worst work. And Kang Ji-hwan stood in that small, ugly service room, in Tina's trap, in the tiled and pipelined underside of the building he was never meant to set foot in, and understood, fully, for the first time, that the single most dangerous person in his tower had been quietly cleaning it the entire time. And then, all at once, it was over. The threat, gone. The map of her son, burned to nothing. The man who drew it, handled the way that world handles things, and never a danger to Keto again. And here is the thing Tina did not expect. Kang Ji-hwan did not come to collect her. He did not come with his men, or an offer, or that terrible glittering safety with the hook buried in the middle of it. He came alone, to a modest low-rise apartment block at the tired edge of the city, at dusk, on foot, with both hands empty at his sides, and he stood outside her ordinary door like the ordinary man he had never once in his entire life been allowed to be. She opened the door on the chain. She did not take it off, not yet. She had not survived this long by taking chains off doors for powerful men. And on that narrow landing, under a bad flickering bulb, Kang Ji-hwan did the single hardest thing a man built like him can do. He did not offer her a thing. He asked her for something. "You saw me," he said, "that first night, on the floor. You looked straight at me, and you told me to move my feet, like I was just a man standing in your way, and not the thing that every other person in that building sees when they look at me. No one has told me a true thing to my face in years, Tina. No one looks at me and sees a person who could simply be in someone's way. I don't want to own you. I don't want my men in your hallway, or my world anywhere near your son. I want to keep being someone you would still tell the truth to." And then he turned to go. He actually turned to leave, having asked for the one thing, and fully braced, in the set of his shoulders, to be refused for it. The way he had refused nothing to no one his whole life, now standing ready to accept a no from a cleaning woman on a bad landing. And Tina took the chain off the door, because she had spent her entire life refusing things that came with a hook hidden in them. Safety with a leash, kindness with a bill, protection with a price she'd be paying long after the danger was gone. And this was the first thing a powerful man had ever held out to her, with no hook in it at all. Not safety, not money, not ownership dressed up as care. Just a man asking to go on being seen by the one person who had ever bothered to actually look. So Tina chose him. On her own terms, spelled out plainly, the way she said everything. No contract, no men in her hallway, no glittering world she had to disappear herself and her son into. Just the truth, given daily, which turned out to be the one single thing his enormous, guarded, dangerous life had completely starved him of. He had owned everything a man could own, except one honest person who would tell him a true thing to his face and not be afraid of what it cost. And that, as it happened, was the one thing Tina had always been best at in the entire world. Keto kept his school. Tina kept her crew, her tired van, her own name over the little cleaning company that was hers and nobody else's, because she had never once needed rescuing from her own life. She had only ever needed the danger cleared out of it so she could go on living the one she'd built. And some mornings, now, Kang Ji-hwan turns up at her little storefront and stands in the doorway holding a broom like the thing might bite him. This man the whole city was once afraid to name, absurd and earnest, and completely out of place, asking, quietly, if she needs a hand with anything. And Tina always tells him the same thing. She looks down, and she points at his expensive shoes, planted squarely in the middle of the patch of floor she is trying to sweep. Feet? And the most feared man in the city lifts them up out of her way, every single time, just like he has done since the very first night that a tired woman with a mop looked straight at him and refused, for one whole second, to disappear.